Welcome, everyone. Now, as soon as we got done with recording our episode about the Wargear exterminatus that we've all experienced this week, 2 hours after we recorded, Kieran, what happened? You tell us.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy timing. 2 hours after we'd finished recording, all the group chats started pinging off, and we found out that Games Workshop had teased the legacy PDF a bit earlier than planned, and obviously it changes a little bit about what we were talking about. I still think there's a lot of value in the chat we had. We discussed a lot of issues around the community, around Games Workshop's policy and approach to how they change things between editions. And we had a good chat about our experience of the change from first edition to second edition as well, and compared it to the current situation. And there's a couple of good stories in there, but in particular, like some of the full-on like high-level hobby work that you did to update your army between editions. And we also had a laugh at your poor Tartaros Sekhmet as well. So
They've copped it twice, yes.
Yeah, so this is just a little disclaimer to say that the main body of the video was recorded prior to the teaser for the PDF, and we
Should
just
we bring
wanted
it
to
up
put that out
quickly,
there.
Kieran, just to see what it's all about?
Yeah, bring it up. Yeah. So they've given us a list of what to expect in the PDF. I think, obviously a lot of it was planned. Most of it was planned to coincide with the release of third edition or just after. But we have heard that there's been a bit of a crisis meeting in Nottingham in the last couple of days, and we suspect that a few choices have been added to that list post haste and under a little bit of time pressure. So there are probably a few more options in here than we were going to get before all of the community outcry and distress. So it'd be interesting to see how it pans out and how things are costed and how thoroughly things are done, because these PDFs are never kind of the perfect product, are they? They're always a bit of a rush job, it seems. And now, we've got that additional time pressure of a couple of weeks essentially, or even a week, just trying to get things done. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. But in the share screen here, we can see most of the kind of units we were hoping to get, and a few bonus ones that we weren't expecting, like veteran breacher squads. What do you think that might be?
I honestly think it's just going to be veterans that had access to all their old war gear. Volkite chargers, Thunderhammer on the Sarge, flamers, melter guns, grav guns, just the old selection, really. I don't think we'll see a increase in weapon skill or ballistic skill. If anything, they'll probably have the additional wound like other veterans. And I think that's my suspicion going into the veteran heavy support squad as well. I just think
that's how I feel about it as well.
Making them ballistic skill 5 is just ridiculous. It's going to make them way too good. But giving them the extra wound makes more sense.
With the heavy support squad, did they lose any options?
I don't know. I never played them in 2.0.
Yeah, I'm not sure that they did. So I wonder what they're going to do there. My instant thought was BS5. So we'll see if there's any change there. Yeah, it kind of makes my Sunkillers a little less special, I suppose. There's a Tartaros Terminator Siege squad. Obviously, that's going to be the missing Tartaros Powerfist entry.
I mean, how obviously has that just been crowbarred in there last minute?
Yeah, that's definitely been snuck in last moment after the crisis meeting. Yeah,
that's damage control.
It is a bit of damage control. It's good to see it back in there. And then there's all the other options as well that nobody really takes in. In last edition they were poor, like the Medusa, the Basilisk, those artillery pieces, scout squads, attack bikes. The Caseless Assault Ram has rules, which is really nice. You've got one of those unpainted, right, sitting around somewhere?
Yeah, in the box of shame. Yep.
Okay. So that's nice, and we got the different consoles back as well, which is really cool, as well as like characters on bikes and with jump packs and all those kind of things, and a command squad with bikes and jet bikes. So pretty good in all.
Well,
Yeah,
it's better than nothing.
yeah,
I think even if GW run the narrative for the gaslighting sort of narrative on, oh hey, this is what we kind of planned all along. I don't know why you guys think the sky's falling. I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it is a win-win for both, even though it's not the most healthy of resolutions to the
yeah,
issue.
yeah,
And I'm not sure we're going to see that 100% copy over from one to the other. It might be 95% sort of like true to the original units as they were in 2.0 and their
yeah,
variety of options. So I
yeah.
wouldn't imagine
Exactly true. Yeah,
it be 100% like for like. It will be
yeah,
probably close enough so you can use the models. And obviously, there may be some things that aren't on this list that they're still writing and trying to crowbar in there.
hmm
Remains to be seen at this stage. But I want to just say to the community, I think that voices do get heard if they are loud enough.
yeah,
And I think that the community's had a real influence on what is in this document. Um,
yeah,
so I commend the community for that.
yeah,
You know, the words and the way it's been put and that sort of stuff, probably not the most pragmatic. However, we got a result, and a result is better than nothing, or better than
yeah,
just plain radio silence or having to eat a shit sandwich. So
yeah. Exactly.
great job for everyone out there who spoke up.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people saying like, "Oh, this was always going to happen." Like the whinging from the community hasn't changed anything. We got this article because of the whinging, so we've got a bit more of a heads up of what's actually happening now. That article last night was, pure damage limitation. So,
Mm.
and I've been told that units have been added and options have been added to the legacy PDF based on the community feedback. So even though we were always going to get this legacy PDF, the final form that we will get will have been affected in some way, at least, by the feedback that Games Workshop received. And
Kieran, are you concerned about the fact that these units aren't play tested and drafted up in the 11th hour?
oh, exactly, that's what I said at the start, right? Like these PDFs are never perfect. Like anyone playing the old world knows that all the PDF factions have got their issues, and they're very unlikely to be updated, anytime soon. And that's the same for this PDF, right?
Mm.
There's sometimes you get amazing units like the full Mentaris and that in the last edition, but most of the time these units will be overcosted, underpowered, and just difficult to use. So the Games Workshop can legitimately say, "We've given you the option. You can use all your toys, but whether those toys are going to be any fun to use, that's a different question." And sometimes they do update these PDFs, but generally what you get is what you get in the end, really. So that is definitely a concern. And the time, pressure put on the people writing these PDFs in response to the community outcry is only going to kind of, I suppose, it'll put more pressure on them to produce, a decent outcome. But that
Mm.
time limitation, I just feel like the people writing the rules are never given enough time. They're always being pushed out the door, and in this case, it's like a very extreme example of that. So I would not be surprised if a lot of these options are, pointed poorly or just don't work, or they could, we could find a lot of typos in the PDF and that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
we're definitely in a better place today than we were yesterday. That's for sure.
All right. Shall we get on with the show so people can, listen to our cathartic moaning?
Just before we do that, I just wanted to point out for you that Cassian Dracos Reborn is back. So you'll be very happy about that, won't you?
He's in. He's in. All right.
Yeah.
My conversion I've got planned can go ahead. Perfect.
I'm really looking forward to seeing that, and that's going to be so cool to share with people as well.
I believe there's some Emperor's Children weapons. They've come back in as well.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what that is. It might be the I think the only option we lost was the Phoenix Rapier, as well as a couple of surgical augments. So it'd be interesting to see if that's what they're talking about or not. But you know, the saber kind of the Phoenix Rapier was replaced by the Palatine saber or blade or whatever it's called now that the you know, kind of has replaced the charnable sabers of the Palatine blade. So who knows what that's going to be? And I think just about most of the legions have additional legion armory options added at the end of their little list of little options. And you know, that's just to say that I think most legions got off pretty well. Some legions did lose characters and units. I just finished painting up a Farith Red Loss conversion today for the Dark Angels, and sad to see that Red Loss and Holguin are both missing from the Dark Angels roster in the Legacy PDF.
Yeah.
But I suppose, you know, they never had proper rulebook rules and they never had models, so they were always kind of in a very risky kind of position.
All right, on that note, let's get on with the show. Enjoy the episode, buddy. Kiza, it's been a hot minute, mate.
It has been a while, bro. We've kept the people waiting. I've been getting a couple of messages asking if we've died or gone on holiday or something.
Let me tell you, I feel like I've died and been reborn. Everyone in my house has been so sick.
Hobby Jesus.
We're finally over it. Or maybe when I had my long hair, I could have passed as Hobby Jesus. Or maybe you when you had your long hair.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're finally, fingers crossed, over the hump. And now we can resume play as per normal. But it has been a crazy 10 days or however long it's been. Kieran, all right, let's just jump straight in, right? What are your honest reactions, or how did you feel when those levers started to leak and you saw the lack of wargear options on unit profiles?
Yeah, well, we took an interesting week to take a little bit of time off, didn't we? It's not like much has happened really since our last recording. I think the first thing I actually noticed before I even saw anything to do with the Centurions was I think one of the first pages I saw was the jet bikes. And I noticed straight away that two of my jet bikes, the Vexilla and the Nuncio Vox, aren't a thing anymore. So I've got some extra decorative jet bikes in my unit at the moment. That was the first thing I noticed, and then went through the other sheets I saw, and yeah, you know, the Wargear is the obvious big one where you've got, you know, a chaplain who, you know, he has a Crozius, but he can't take anything else apart from a pistol, and he has no special rules apart from like Cool 10, which is really useful in game, but like so bland. Just
cool.
Sorry, he's very cool, but he's missing so much flavor. Yeah, a real shock. And I know for you, like the big question we had and what we were talking about in our preparing for 3rd edition episode was what were veterans going to be like? And were you going to be able to use your vets as vets, or whether they were going to have to be despoilers or something else? And yeah, vets have had a pretty big change, bro. So how are you feeling about them?
I still don't know. I still don't know, because the thing that I thought vets may have now been split down the middle into two separate profiles and
Yeah.
into two separate wargear loadouts as well,
Mhm.
which is an important distinction. Although assault vets sound cool as fuck, they are locked in to having the bolt pistol, chainsword, and jump pack. Now, I've modeled my guys with bolt pistols and chainswords. However, they don't have a jump pack, and they're also armed with bolt guns as well. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think models can have 3 weapons anymore. I think they're only limited to 2 weapons in most instances. So you could, like, a lot of the options that you have is you can change your pistol or you can change your combat weapon for an item from this list, right? So it's never about gaining additional war gear, from what I've read, in most instances. Now, what they've also done is they've split apart the weapon skill and the ballistic skill profiles. So no longer are all veterans weapon skill 5. We've got the assault veterans with the jump packs are weapon skill 5. And then you've got your tactical veterans who are ballistic skill 5 and only weapon skill 4. So I think what we've seen is a greater distinction between the two veterans profiles, and it's kind of reminiscent of Vanguard veterans and Sternguard veterans from 40K, and I'm not sure I like that at one
Yeah,
bit.
me
It
either.
kind of leaves a bit of a bad taste in my mouth, if
Yeah.
I'm honest. So I really need to find out a workaround to this. One option that I was considering was the Praetorian Command Squad, which is essentially a weapon skill 5 veteran squad. However, they've got a banner and they've got a 2+ save. That could be a consideration.
It's just an old command squad, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but then I'll be losing good special rules like Line or Vanguard. So some big decisions to weigh up. I haven't written any lists yet. I've kind of just been holding off. I also, to be honest, haven't had the time to sit down and digest everything yet. For me, I'm the person that needs to like flick back and forth between pages of the book to see how one rule relates to the next, and to sort of synergies you can develop. It's really hard to do that on an iPad or a phone screen or a computer or something like that. So, look, I might give a crack at writing a list, seeing what I can come up with towards the end of the week. Now, I think they're just going to have to be in limbo because I'm not really sure which way to go with them until I read more. But it's funny, even though I'm so torn about the whole veteran scenario on my painting desk, I can't be any more satisfied with the Salamander's rules. And not only the Salamander's rules, but the Thousand Suns rules. They both look much healthier and more playable than what they were last edition. So no longer are they the shit-eating dregs on the ocean floor. They're actually commanding a little bit of respect from opponents, and they do look fun and interesting. I'd say that they're two of the armies that have probably come out of this whole commotion in a healthier place. Things like Kenetai Blades in the Thousand Suns, for example, got a lot better, and they needed to. I've got a unit of Kenetai Blades that I've built since first edition that haven't even seen the light of day because their rules were so bad in second, and you never really saw them on the tabletop for that reason. Sekhmet, for example, kept their profile. They're combat beasts. They've still got Vanguard, and they've
Lots of
got
war gear.
all their Wargear options still available to them. And when you start looking at those options and then stacking them with the Cult Arcana, which look way more evenly spread and way more healthier for your army and the game as a whole, I think you can really start creating some cool combinations with all that stuff. So from an army perspective, I'm not depressed at all. I'm actually quite excited to give both armies a run in this edition, which is really contrary to like what the general discourse is.
And it doesn't really suit you either, bro, because
I'm not apologizing for what Games Workshop have chosen to do with the Wargear options. It's just a matter of coincidence that the armies that I play got better and got more and have more flexible options. So my heart goes out to everyone that has had a loss. So condolences, everybody.
But you like playing shit legions, bro. Like, I feel like that was a big part of the reason why you played the Salamanders, because you always like trying to find the secret sauce and trying to make something that looks shit and that people kind of, discount. You want to try and make it work and find that anti-meta pick. And now you're playing two of the top tier whack legions, and you're thinking about
I wouldn't go that far. Top tier
whack faction of all.
That is a big call,
right? This isn't you, mate. I don't know what's going on. You're gonna have to take some really weird units in that list.
Let's play 30 games first, then decide. Okay, that's my benchmark. That's my benchmark. I'm not going to draw a conclusion on what I think about the game and what I think about the levers until I've had 30 games of data to digest.
By the end of the edition, you'll be playing Blood Angels and White Scars, just trying to find something special.
I could be. I did tell you I had a moment of weakness, and I said I'd love to do a little Blood Angels army. That would be absolutely sick.
Yeah.
I could just be shooting myself in the foot for later on this edition. We will see. One thing not related to the Libers leaks, though, is something I may have mentioned last time, was how curious I am to see the rules for the new knights, the Questoris knights as well, because I've got knights that I've barely ever used, and I couldn't even use them last edition because they were a joke army. They could not compete at all unless you had a Porphyron, which wasn't fun for anybody.
And you didn't have the Armigers for it anyway, right?
Well, exactly. I didn't have 19 Armiger Knights to run with the army. So I think that army list is also going to be in a healthier place, and it's going to have more flexible options with allying units of Mechanicum, allying units of Solar and stuff like that, which could provide really good speed bumps for the Knights and cover a little bit of their weaknesses where they may get exposed in the game. So, look, that's something I may revisit later on down the line too. I'm keen for a lot of different things. I haven't, I don't know. I don't know if I've been too outspoken on the negativity sort of side of things, like a lot of people have, but that's because I'm secretly kind of satiated with the rules that I want to be using this edition. That's my take. Should we talk about what's actually
taking a far too mature and like balanced approach to this, Adam? Like all these side bitch like factions, mate. I don't want to hear about it, bro. Like it's the Horus Heresy. It's Legion on Legion. Like Knights are like, they're paperweights, mate. They shouldn't even be in the game. Like Mechanicum, like don't want to hear about them. They're like, fixing computers. Okay. Militia, toughness 3, mate. Like, you're being far too reasonable.
Everyone understands your hatred for the side bitch side bitch armies in the Heresy. I'm going to do some just to piss you off. Mark my words.
I don't want to use my brain. Like, I don't want to have to like learn rules for other factions and like actually have to think about what I'm doing when I'm writing a list.
Well, it looks like that Mechanicum are the big bad again. They're the bully taking everyone's lunch money. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, of course I don't like it because I don't like the Mechanicum, but like, they've always been good, haven't they? Like, they were really good in first edition. Second edition, they were really good. They had more kind of limited builds and what they could do, but their competitive lists were amazing. So it feels like a kind of, it's not that much of a difference, right? They've always been like
It was
a
Myrmidax.
competitive list. Sorry?
Myrmidax was the build that was amazing.
Yeah, they had limited options, but the options that were good were really bloody good, like amazing. And now they look really, really fantastic with like rules like Vanguard 3 on, some ranged units and that kind of thing, which we haven't really seen for Legions. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they go. Like, it's one of those armies that's, it's always been a powerful force, and it always catches people off guard as well because a lot of Legion players don't really know what Mechanicum units do. So you're playing against a powerful list, and you also don't know what it does. So you can't call people out if they're doing things incorrectly, and you don't know how to take on particular units and that kind of thing. So I think we're going to have to be prepared now to kind of face far more kind of diverse armies, different lists, especially with like the plastic releases and that kind of thing. It's just the game's changing quite a bit. It's becoming, I suppose, a bit more like 40k now with multiple options for very different kinds of armies. And I know a lot of people have always complained about how boring Legion on Legion is. And, if you come from a setting with more diverse kind of armies, I suppose that's true. But for me, that's always been like the core of the Heresy and what makes it so interesting. So
Do you
times
think
are just changing.
Do you think when that parallel's drawn to like what 40k is these days, do you think it's justified?
In which way?
I don't know. I don't know if it is representative of what sort of 40k is, because even though we've got such an open and flexible style of Force Org now, I think discerning players will still recognize that they need a certain amount of Vanguard, a certain amount of line. They're going to have to pay they're going to have to pay a certain amount of command tax.
That's not what I was saying. Yeah,
to really optimize to kind of optimize their build. So there's almost, I think the meta might even sort of control army list composition in a way.
Of course, it always does. There are always good choices and bad choices. I think what I was referring more to in the case of 40k is like the diversity of factions. So we might see, a lot more Solar, a lot more Mechanicum, Custodes, Talons when they come out, rather than only Legions. That's what I was speaking about. There are always going to be metas and units and options that are the best and that will rise to the top, and there'll be an archetypal list, that's a good balance between line and Vanguard. And maybe some people will try and play like a Vanguard heavy list to make it a little bit different, but generally things do kind of wash out in the end, and everything looks fairly kind of the same.
I'm personally, I'm looking forward to playing some lists that are a little bit different, to see some other factions kind of represented, because in the last 2.5, 3 years, when we've gone to local events, I mean, we can only speak to what's in our meta, right? Our local sort of, meta and event scene. I think you'd be lucky to find a non-Legion army every 20 armies. What do you think? Like 1 in 20 might be different.
Yeah, I feel like there was definitely less diversity in second edition than in first edition. I feel like. And
I think that's probably got to do with how non-competitive they were. Let's be honest, they were shit. They were shit armies. Solar,
I feel like
you only really had 1 or 2 units that could make that list competitive. Mech had obviously the primo dick kicking Myrmidax build. Other than that,
well, there were a few demon lists towards the end, to be fair.
In that sort of way, Knights were terrible, Militia were terrible and unusable.
Yeah.
outside of sovereigns, what did demons really have? Nothing to be competitive. So you had a lot of these other factions just fall by the wayside, really. Even though
It was fantastic, yeah.
their rules were for the most part fluffy representations of what they did. They just didn't translate to being competitive against what was the best in the game.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just kind of made for a stale or stagnating kind of meta that got repetitive towards the end. Now,
to be fair, like you and I, like we're not traveling interstate to play games or anything like that, like a lot of people do. So the pool of people that we play is smaller than a lot of people.
yeah,
So,
I'd be genuinely interested to hear from other people in the comments, in your local scene or event scene or meta, what the breakdown might be. Just percentage sort of thing.
Between legions, mechanicum, talons, solar, demons,
yeah,
militia, I suppose.
Yeah. Now, the Great Wargear Exterminatus has happened. I want to cast your mind back to 3 years ago when second edition came out, and that still happened in different kind of ways. I don't think it was as obnoxiously done or as sort of widespread and significant. Didn't affect most people's armies. It probably affected the minority of armies. But it is something that has happened before, and this is the second transformation of Heresy. In third edition, if you look to older editions of 40k and whatnot, there's a track record of this sort of stuff happening. Now, sometimes it's just change for change's sake. Sometimes there is a deeper meaning to the change. However, it is kind of worth highlighting that it's happened before. I can speak to it personally, and you can too. One of the things that we used to run in our first edition armies was the Sakaran Venator. Let's bring up a photo of that, right? And a lot of what people used to do was, because it had the ordnance gun on it, would use it as a mobile artillery tank. That meant not arming it and paying the points for the sponsons, because primarily that's not what you buy the tank for. You buy it for the big cock gun on the front, right? And in 2.0, you lost that option. It was, and then became mandatory, right, to arm your tanks with the sponsons that came on the kit. So did you do anything about this, Kieran, or did you retire this tank afterwards?
I pretty much retired it. I've used it in a couple of games, but every the 2 or 3 games that I've used it in, I just said I'm just going to use it like this. So I used it like as it is now. I didn't use sponson weapons or anything like that, because, like you said, they are pretty pointless on an ordnance tank. They serve the purpose of being like an extra weapon to be removed for weapon destroyed results, so you don't take away your big gun straight away. But apart from that, they didn't serve much kind of purpose in the game. And to be fair, I'm still a much bigger fan of the no sponson look, especially on the Venator. It's a mobile, self-propelled artillery. You could imagine it like being like lying in cover somewhere in ambush, and little side sponsons poking out the side would just kind of ruin that silhouette and get caught on the undergrowth and stuff. And I think it looks kind of a lot more sinister and kind of dangerous without the side sponsons on it. So I could never bring myself to getting a Dremel or a drill and changing it out. So I did essentially retire it. I know
Which is
that
sad.
you also had the same
Kind of
issue, but you
people are starting to retire models because they know what's coming.
Yeah.
So not only did I have the Venator, when I dug up these photos, I also found out that I armed my Sakaran battle tank with no sponsons either. Maybe because I was just a tight ass and didn't have the points. I can't remember. But
and
I
it's a
had
beautiful
both
big side panel to put a transfer on. Yeah, like it looks fantastic without the sponsons, I reckon.
Perfect spot to do transfers. And not only transfers, but people spend a lot of time, doing freehand and all sorts of stuff on the side there. I mean, those are transfers, but I've incorporated parts of freehand and that sort of stuff on there as well. But I wanted these tanks to be usable in second edition. So I had to grow some balls. I found the right size sawtooth drill, and I basically drilled into the side of my painted Sakaran tank in order to mount some sponsons and to retrofit the Wargear that is now mandatory on them for me to use the models. So they ended up looking fine. They came up a tree. You can't tell at the end of the day, even though my heart was in my throat the whole time I was doing it.
Yeah, that's not like snapping off a backpack and like power pack and putting on a jump pack or something, is it? That's proper, like
it requires a level of commitment.
Proper hobby conversion. Yeah, that's tough.
And it was a painful experience, even though it came out fine. Right, the whole thing was like pulling teeth. It was no fun.
Nothing enjoyable about that. Yeah,
exactly. Furthermore,
and it also means you're not painting new models and stuff. You're not. It's nothing to be excited about. You're going back to projects that are already done and that you're happy with, and now that you're being forced essentially to alter when you're reading through these new books and you're seeing new options and you want to add new things to your army and change the way you play and do all these exciting things, but you're having to go back and take a power tool to a couple of your tanks. Like, not the most exciting part of the hobby for sure.
Yeah, that's right. But now I've got the confidence to use a whole saw on any other model I need to attack it with.
Fucking hell! Fingers crossed, bro. Like,
not only were the two Sakarans an issue, right? But what they also did is that we started to see this Wargear locking coming in. Units that had access to like two types of Terminator armor, for example. I'm gonna bring up the ones that come to the top of my head, which would be Death Shroud. Death Shroud could take Tartarus or Cataphractii armor, and Sekhmet could also take Tartarus or Cataphractii armor. And because I am anti-meta and I go against the grain of things, okay, I didn't want to be the same old chud running the guard of the Kings and
Crimson King, yeah, 3+ invuln.
Thank you very
much.
I've had a big day, if you can't tell. Running that Rite of War with the token Cataphractii Sekhmet with the 3+ invulnerable save, yada, 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 bad player experience. Yeah. Okay. All right, so I took a different approach. I built my 10 Sekhmet, all of Tartarus Terminators. I was really happy with how they looked. And in all my first edition games, they were great fun to play and not as offensive as their Cataphractii counterparts. Come 2.0, this is no longer an option. I can't run them as Sekhmet anymore because, I mean, Count Saz only gets you so far, right? This is a stretch too far. You cannot count that as Cataphractii armor, despite the headdress and the embellishments and whatnot that might be similar to the Sekhmet. So
yeah, like a lot of people would say that you could, but I think we're both kind of hobby completionists, right? We want to try and do things WYSIWYG as much as possible and try and do things as we see it the right way, and not
Yeah.
kind of trying to avoid counts as where you can.
Exactly. So they got downgraded. All 10 sec met had to get downgraded to normal standard Legion Tartarus Terminators, which we can
That was
now
fucking
agree that Tartarus
painful.
Legion Tartarus Terminators, one of the worst units in the game.
4+ to hit. Like the weapon skill 4 was just horrible.
Garbage. Combi weapons, garbage. Too many points.
I used a lot of Tartarus Terminators
They
in
couldn't hit the
first
side of a
edition.
barn door with weapon skill 4.
Yeah, I used a lot in first edition, and then barely, if ever, in second edition. And for me, that was because of the dread claws. Like I used to use 3 units of 5 in a dread claw each in my Alpha Legion in first edition, and then second edition. Like that's still a legal unit, but the dread claws was so useless that I essentially retired 4 dread claws as well, 5 dread claws.
How many times did you use your dread claws in second edition?
0. Like, yeah, and I used to use them always in first edition. 5 dread claws, like that's nothing. That's not nothing, and
Fucking no, it's not nothing.
lots of work, lots of money. Yeah,
it's almost more insulting to read rules that are unusable for the models that you have than to take options away and make them unusable.
yeah.
It's like I've just been served a shit sandwich and you want me to eat it. Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, and to be fair, that's my fear with a lot of like what might come in the legacies. Like we might get a lot of the units that we've lost and the options that we've lost, but they might be pointed ridiculously. They might be incredibly expensive. They might be like the super heavies were in second edition, and the artillery tanks that were just horrible with terrible weapons and just unusable. So yeah, that's the other fear as well.
To be honest, I think probably 3/4 of the current second edition Legacies document is like that. Pointed way too heavy. The units aren't as effective. They're made like that on purpose. They're trying to phase this stuff out of the game. We get it.
And then you get full Mentaris and fucking
Ultramarine
jump pack units.
We can talk about that another day, but we know why that happened.
We do know why that happened, yeah.
The level of bias was off the charts.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I might as well keep the Tartarus Terminator up, all right, because now they're in the spotlight again because
this is illegal again.
The most contentious issues going around with the whole Wargear discourse.
So this model's been made illegal twice now.
Exactly.
It's been illegal in a different way.
That's it. I'm tipping them straight in the bin.
Oh,
they've received the 1-2 combination between editions. I can't believe it.
Fuck, I didn't even think about that earlier. Yeah, that's incredible. They went from being Sekhmet to not being able to be Sekhmet, and now they can't even take the Wargear. Like, oh.
Exactly. So Powerfists and Chain Fists, no more, right?
Gone.
Gonskis.
So,
yeah. Understandably, right? We know where everybody is coming from. We're in the same boat as everyone else. It sucks. It really sucks. Nothing is better than finishing your models and getting that rewarding feeling of it being completed and you being proud of your work, only for it to be made invalidated. So, my heart goes out to everybody who's going through some stuff at the moment.
Thanks, bro. It means like
yeah. But it is just stuff. Time heals all wounds. Okay. And when you just finish a model, I think that's when you're most sentimentally connected to it, because you've just gone through the whole process and labor and that intense time to finish it. all that investment that you've put in, you've just come out the other end. That's the rewarding special feeling. But then the more you use these models and the more you're around them, that kind of wears off, right? That sentimentality, even though they're still great and you want to keep them. For me personally, to now go break this off, break this fist off, worse things have happened. I've fucking drilled through my Sakarans, for fuck's sake. Way worse things have happened than changing a fist. I'm not apologizing for Games Workshop's decision. I am not. Okay, but we will all get through this, is what I'm saying. Kieran, do you have any affected models like this?
I'm taking deep breaths right now. Yeah, like I've been laughing about it and joking about it, but I'm quite pissed off with like the state of things and how things are. Like it's just ridiculous. Like those Tartaros are the perfect example. Like, is it a mistake? Like it seems like it must be an error. It seems like so obvious. The kits come with the fists. You know, the display models are shown with the fists. There are Tartaros with fists in the main rulebook. Like it must be an error. But then, you know, on the other side, like maybe it's not. Maybe they've just changed things up to try and differentiate between the Terminator units, as if like, you know, super slow, tougher Terminator unit was like not different enough to a quicker Terminator. Like it just, yeah, I'm struggling with it. I'm like, I admire your like tenacity and like willingness to move on and just to snap the fists off and change them. But I kind of want to say like, don't do it. Maybe like it's a mistake. Maybe they'll change it. Maybe like it's going to be okay. But it's, you know, it just seems so up in the air at the moment because it seems like such an obvious error, especially that one. Like that, like surely that can't be right. Like surely it's in the box set. Like that's what they come with. Like what the hell is going on? And like unless we get like a Tartarus set coming out in the next couple of weeks or like a couple of months with no fists in it, like I don't know, man. It seems kind of weird, and especially the way they do fists these days, which are just like an attachment, like lightning claws, which are just an attachment to a power fist. Like I feel like whatever kind of kit they make, if they give us lightning claws, it's going to be fists as well. Like it's just fucking strange. Like yeah, and yeah, you're right. The right thing to do is to kind of like adapt and overcome and all that kind of shit. But it just feels so fucking pointless, like petty. Like why has it changed? Like for Tartaros, like I don't get it. Like, you know, super cynical. I can see why consoles have been locked the way they are. It's because Games Workshop wants to sell those models, right? And it is good for Games Workshop's like model to invalidate our collections because they need us to buy new things.
Of course.
And I completely believe that is the strategy, right? And we've heard like on the street that in second edition, people behind the scenes had to fight really, really hard for us not to have these kind of changes in second edition. And now, you know, some of those people have gone, or maybe, you know, the higher up executives have got, you know, more leverage and now they've finally gone the whole way. But it's weird because like, you know, a console like comes with a particular weapon, but Games Workshop also sells like, you know, combat weapon upgrade kits. Like, why can't I use those bits on my like Herald?
Exactly.
Like, why can't I give my Herald like those options? Or, you know, can't I give my Chaplain like a second weapon or something? Like, it's just very strange. And I understand that it's because Games Workshop are trying to invalidate things to sell models. But it's, yeah, I don't know. It just seems very strange to me. And the Tartaros that just don't make any sense to me. Like, I can see the cynical purpose of the consoles being locked the way they are, but the Tartaros just seems like an error. It's just very strange.
The only explanation that could give it some legs is that we know that the age of resin is over. The Games Workshop has already said this 12 months ago in their annual report. They said we have a plan to phase out all of our resin products because of the environmental, health, sustainability issues of producing in resin. We want to be modern and green and sustainable. We're going to move away from resin in the next 3 years, right? Heresy has been almost resin exclusive for the longest time, up until 3 years ago. So I think we're going to start to see that transition out of resin models. All the stuff we're going to be getting is going to start coming in plastic. Whether these options or lack of options are future-proofing for new plastic kits that are coming out in future remains to be seen. That's the suspicion. So we also see stuff like Linnaeans gain Wargear options. Just Darren, I don't know if Just Darren gained anything, but they've definitely not lost anything.
I think they might have gained a couple of heavy weapons, but I think that might have been it.
Okay.
And they lost like maybe some of the Corsair, like some of the special war gear, but apart from that, they're pretty much the same.
We know that the new Cataphracti are coming as well. I mean, that was shown in that massive preview a couple of months ago. And what did that model have? It had a Volkite Charger in its hand. Volkite Chargers are free options for the combi bolters in the Cataphracti unit entry, right? So some of this stuff starting to marry up. So it could be a glimpse into the future of what's going to come for some sort of units that are a little bit NQR at the moment. But I'm with you. It's kind of unnecessary. Whether the kit does have or does not have is irrelevant. But if you look at Games Workshop's perspective, it's probably a way for them to start combating against 3D and third-party supply as well, right? Because a lot of people go to that stuff for options these days.
Yeah, I suppose you could make that argument for options that aren't available, but people can still 3D print, everything that they can get from Games Workshop anyway. So I don't think, they're going to decrease, they might decrease like the breadth of 3D sales, but people who are going to 3D print are still going to 3D print. It's just weird. Like,
do you think there's any comparisons to be drawn with how Warhammer Fantasy Battles was treated towards the end of 8th Ed and the old times? I mean, I'm not talking about them blowing up the world and discontinuing the whole main line and all that sort of stuff, but I'm talking about the meta of their target audience. The people who played Warhammer Fantasy Battles the most are the veterans of the game. But veterans of the game don't spend money on the game like new players do, because veterans already have all their models. And you saw a lot of veterans play with armies like their fantasy armies from 6th edition or 5th edition, or they had old Hammer models, right? And there wasn't any new money and cash flow coming into the system. Do you think that Wargear locking, moving from resin to plastic, and that sort of dynamic, do you think there's any correlation between this migration into the new way, into the new Wargear way, and to getting new blood into the hobby and maybe making the accessibility point a little bit easier for those players so they do have capacity to maybe just go out and buy that unit, and it makes the whole thing way more easier?
So yeah, I definitely think that is Games Workshop's method. They, they'd much prefer two 15-year-olds to go into a Games Workshop and buy like a Battle Force than someone sit at home and one person buy a Battle Force and then paint it up properly and convert it and base it nicely and play games. Like, they're not worried about that. All they want to do is sell models, right? So for them, it's perfectly fine if like someone goes in and buys a kit and then like never paints it, never assembles it. As long as they go and buy another kit, like they don't care at all. I don't, simplifying the game would make it more accessible, but this game has not been simplified.
It's the
It's
most
been made
complex.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been made more complex. So that kind of says to me that that's not the aim there. Locking Centurions to consoles to specific Wargear does not seem to me like a move to make things more simple, because people could still buy a Centurion and use it straight out of the box, right? They don't have to give it extra Wargear, even if those Wargear options are there. Unless, of course, like, there was a weapon that was like obviously better than everything else, like the Thunderhammer in second edition, and then people may feel pressured to change weapons if they want to play competitively. But having those options, I don't think like removing them makes it more accessible, because you don't have to take those options. And the game itself has not been simplified. They've changed, they're changing the rules. I don't think they've really removed that much. Like, there are going to be a few less reactions, perhaps, but things like gambits and duels and challenges, the 3 additional characteristics, things have not been simplified. The game is still like a high-level game that is going to be very difficult for beginners to get into. And it's also, it's going to be difficult enough for people to transition across from second edition who maybe don't have the time to invest and like, thoroughly read the rule books. And to be fair, of what I've read the rule books so far, like, they're well written, as in they're like, written like legal documents. Like, there are far less loopholes these days, but it also takes a lot longer to read because there's a lot of repetition. And it's just very, very thorough now. But, that kind of goes against what a lot of people were always whinging about in second edition, wanting things to be simpler and easier to understand. Whereas, like, personally, I'm fine with like a more wordy explanation as long as it's clear and doesn't have those ambiguities in it. I'm fine with that. But a lot of people, that'll piss off a lot of people, because people just want short, easy answers, and that's not what this like edition's giving us. So it doesn't feel like, the sales kind of like approach is kind of matching up with the game design. Like,
All right. Let me ask you another question then. So, having said that, do you think the reason for the stripping back of options could be that the levers are just a stopgap, because they understand that veterans are frugally spending on the hobby, or don't spend as much, or don't lash out because they've already got big collections? Are the levers more of a stopgap, and their expansion journals are going to be the things that start getting people to sort of spend their money, not on the books, but on the units and the new things that are coming out in the books that are then breathing new life into their collections again? So, I mean, the perfect example of that might be seeing Tregorian Brotherhood come back and to be usable again.
Yeah.
Right? Do you think that may be the reason as to why?
I think that's a really good way to look at it. Like, the levers do feel very thin, and they do have that kind of stopgappy baseline level kind of feel, and perhaps we'll get a bit more flavor and variety when they come out with the journals. And looking at it from like a sales perspective, that does make sense, because I know some people kind of felt in first edition that one of the most exciting things was getting a Heresy like Thursday email and seeing like a new unit that they hadn't seen before, that was completely new, and everyone would add that to their army. Whereas in second edition, we didn't really get that much new. We they just refreshed the range essentially and converted everything across to plastic. So people often already had the unit from its resin edition, or everything was kind of available from somewhere, either plastic or resin, that there wasn't kind of that push to necessarily add new units beyond responding to changes in the meta and what was good and how people wanted to play. Whereas if they come out with journals and those journals are accompanied by new kits, new models, or different ways to convert your existing models, then people will buy new things. So I think that's a really good suggestion that you made. That might be the theory going forwards. That not necessarily that they'll be adding options back in, but that they'll be adding additional units and different ways to play your stuff.
Yeah. Do you think it's worth sort of touching on retrofitting and repurposing models?
Yeah, we could have a chat about that. I think you touched a bit on the more extreme side of it earlier with your Sicaran examples. That was a major refitting.
Well,
not the kind of thing you
all right.
usually think of.
Let's touch on consoles, right? I've got this guy in my Thousand Suns army. He's a Forge Lord.
Yeah.
Now, rumor has it that he's going to be in the PDF Legacies document. Still remains to be seen because it is not out and there is no copy going around. I mean, he's got a whip. I mean, it could count as a power weapon. I could easily use this guy as like a Centurion, because a Centurion can take all these options, but then he does lose that flavor. For people who may be confused, in first edition, I ran this guy as a Forge Lord, and that was his
Vortex control,
the whip, right? Because he's like a slave driver for his Thalat. So, I mean, one option I could have is, because he does have the whip, I could use him as an overseer, which would mean that I'd have to, ally in some Prospering Spire Guard or something like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, he'd have to lose the hammer. But every man and his dog are snapping weapons off at the start of this edition anyway. So,
yeah.
I mean, that could be an option.
He could also be he could be a siege breaker, with a Thunderhammer and an ornamental whip. He could be, just like you said, a basic Centurion. But
I could lose the whip altogether, right? Because what does a siege breaker have? He's got a hammer and what else?
I don't remember, but he just comes with a hammer. That's all I know for the Wargear. Right. Yeah.
Maybe I can swap the whip out for a pistol or a little augury scanner or something.
Yeah, like my Legion champion has he's got a spear and a hammer, and now he can't use the hammer. So either I just use him as a Legion champion, and he's already armed with 2 weapons, and he just uses one of them because the other one doesn't exist anymore for him, or he becomes a general console to take a hammer, but that's pretty dead and boring. Yeah. Or I convert him. I don't know, at this stage, I'd probably just leave him the way he is, and just, the hammer just becomes purely ornamental, because he's still got his Paragon blade, and that's fine. The other issue with him is that I'll have to paint up another power pack for him, because he has a jump pack. Because I had a lot of jump pack characters and units for my Emperor's Children. So yeah, my Chaplain jump pack, Herald jump pack, Praetor jump pack, Champion jump pack, they're all losing those options. So, and my apothecaries with jump packs. So, there's going to be a few units.
Oh yeah, they can't take them anymore, can they?
Don't think so. So, yeah, that's going to be a few dudes losing their jump packs, but
if I'm trying to be positive about it, Kieran, painting a backpack or painting a new weapon is much easier and less time consuming than painting a whole new model.
Yeah, for sure.
That's fathers to decide as well, but
it's just it just makes you a little bit sad, because You built things the way you wanted them to be the first time because that's what excited you and that's what got the juices flowing and like the brain cells firing. And now you're forced into making changes that you didn't want to make, and it's just a little bit sad. Like some options, some units losing some options, like is totally fine with me. Like the suzerain losing their thunderhammers, I'm totally fine with that. Their axe, the Legatine axe, is their classic weapon.
They've been too good for too long anyway. Time to tank.
It just felt like just felt out of place because like it's a specific unit with a classic weapon that they have. Like it'd be like a Phoenix Guard Terminator with a thunderhammer. Like that'd just be strange. That's not their weapon. But then your generic characters like lose some options, and it's just a bit annoying. Yeah, a bit sad.
All right. On that bright and happy note, good luck everybody with the transition. Let us know if you're going to be retrofitting your models. We'd like to hear about your story. Any last words before we sign out, Kieran?
Not really. I just obviously a lot of people are feeling a lot of emotions at the moment, including myself. Just be gentle with each other, I reckon. Like there's no need to like abuse anyone or be cruel to anyone else. Everyone's kind of experiencing this change in their own way. And that goes as much as it's as much for people who tell everyone to grow up and move on and get on with it. They're just toy soldiers, and nerds complaining about nerds are just as bad as nerds complaining. So like just be kind to each other. Don't take the piss out of people who are taking this hard. You don't know their circumstances. You don't know their armies, what they're losing. And obviously, like if you're losing all of your stuff, like commiserations, like we're all losing a bit, and just be kind to each other. Like there's no point attacking influencers. Like, we had the whole fuck Pardo thing, which is just senseless. Like, I get that emotions are running high and, people feel very strongly about these things. We put, hundreds and thousands of hours into this hobby. Like it's something that we all really care about and generally really enjoy and get a lot of pleasure from. So yeah, just be kind to each other, be gentle with each other. Like people will do what kind of works out best for them in the end, whether that's staying with an older edition or moving with the times or, leaving the hobby altogether and doing something else that brings them pleasure. Like just be kind to each other and keep hobbying.
That was very well said, Kieran. Let's get out of here.
See you later, bro.
Heresy.